Hi, this is Ed, and as you can see, I'm here in San Diego. This beautiful skyline behind. This picture was taken from the airport Sheraton Hotel, looking at downtown San Diego. We're going to be joined by Dianne Devitt. She is a master communicator and actually a professor of media and things related for 30 years at NYU. And so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Alrighty. And you're going to ask me questions or?
Yes, I am. We're here,
Oh,
and I'm in San Diego, and Diane Devitt is, where are you today?
today I'm in Chicago, but I'm always in New York.
Okay, great. And here we are online in Zoom. And it's December 20, and the days are going to start getting longer, thankfully. So, Diane, I want to learn about what you're doing and about your excitement, your new excitement regarding this professional certificate idea. And I happen to like that idea. And I understand this is like 2.0. You started with 1.0, and like anything else, uh, we sort of outgrow it and need new shoes.
Yeah,
And
or it grows to meet the demands of the times, and I think that's what happened, and I know that's what's happening, and I hope it continues to grow as anything, right? So, but thank you, and thank you, Ed, for inviting me today. I appreciate it. So yeah, so I mean, just a little bit about my background too is so I come from the meetings and events production industry. I was an adjunct professor at New York University for 35 years. When the certificate program first there started, I was at the onset, and I love education. And so post COVID and during COVID, based on the situations, and I think that's when you and I met, I started to invest my time in creating a certificate in the business of meetings and events because I saw what was happening. The events and meetings industry is the first to go and the last to come back, but one of the most needed tools in business.
so let's talk about this for a second. This is um, small business does meetings also, but your orientation is Fortune 500 companies, and but anyone in business can benefit from this because it's education about the things that busy executives uh, get worried about, but they don't have time to handle all this stuff. So they
Right,
ask an EA, in other words, an executive assistant.
right,
That used
right.
to be
So
called secretary, right?
yes, well, I was called a secretary at one point, but this is a very interesting chasm in business that has come to the fore for me this year. So when I first I come from the, as I said to you, with the industry, and I'm very supportive of all the industry associations. When I say that, such as meeting professionals and PCMA, there's a whole cadre of them. But what was clear to me was the need to provide fundamental foundational knowledge to people who are tasked with planning meetings and events, who have not had the formal training, who have not had the experience, and yet are given these monumental responsibilities to bring people together for a purpose. So what happened is I evolved this. The full certificate is comprised of 19 different modules or topics, if you will.
I want to jump in for a second here to
Yeah.
orient the audience out there because it's a diverse audience and mostly US, but it does go Asia Pacific and Latin America and Canada, even Africa, and
Mhm.
Middle East. So it's corporate, though. Our audience is corporate. And a lot of our audience in the corporate realm has to do with people, and that is human resources. But it also means acquisition, talent acquisition, learning and development, compensation and benefits, rewards.
Right,
It has to do with legal. Of course, everything is legal.
right,
And that covers employment law as well as immigration law. And then, of course, tax is everywhere. So the EA that's given the assignments are smart people and they're intelligent. Otherwise, they wouldn't get hired by the C suite to be the EA. But what they don't have is any idea of what the risks are.
right.
And that is what I want to ask you to focus. If you could enumerate, or if you want to show a slide, that's fine. My screen share is open. Or we can
Right, no,
enumerate what the big three uh, blow ups, crisis that could happen at a split second because the EA is not educated, they're not prepared.
right. Well, Ed, you just in the introduction, you touched on so many important things. All right, and that is, you know, as a professor, the class when I used to teach the risk management class, insurance, legal, I would tell the students, this is the most, and I still mean that, this is the most important class of the semester. Why? Because as a planner, your first and foremost responsibility is for the safety and security of all attendees, right? So that's in one form. But risk, as you know, has a few different meanings. So here's an example that happened a few months ago. Through no fault of her own, an EA was charged and she signed a contract. Now, most companies and most corporations, you go through legal, but this was, oh, plan a meeting and here's the hotel contract. And she signed the contract. And then when her boss wanted to cancel the meeting, there was no uh, clause that defended that for any kind of credit, and the company lost $100,000 as a
Ouch.
result.
Oof.
So that's risk number one. And again, this is, and I know you, and I want the audience to know this. This is through no fault of that EAs, because you don't know what you don't know. And meetings and events is a multi-billion-dollar meeting, a multi-billion-dollar business that is just like any other business. It may not appear so at the outset, but it is definitely a business. It's a communication business. It's based on strategy. It's based on objectives and goals and results. And most corporations have meeting and event departments. But what has happened over the years is that they are so busy, they are tasked with focusing on management, and the surplus and the ancillary meetings are then given, the responsibility is given to the EAs, to the AAs, and to anyone who is in that situation. So getting back to risk, you have the financial risk, and not just the financial risk of what can be lost, but the financial risk of how to buy, what is negotiable, um, what vendors and what resources are not only suitable for your specific meeting or event, but are the best value for that. And do you trust them to deliver that product, whatever it is? So there's that risk as well. And then, most importantly, there's the security risk. More than ever, to understand security, and again, I am very aware, because I've worked with corporate my whole life, of working with directors of security, FBI, CIA, whatever the level is. That is first and foremost in the planner's mind, to ensure that that is taken care of. And so there's a lot when you say risk, holy mackerel, risk and security is the umbrella that's
So
covering.
what's really weird and timely is the horrific news recently of the CEO of United Health uh, was shot right outside the Hilton, walking down the street into the
Right,
meeting.
right. And you know, Ed, when I heard that news,
What a freak out!
well, when I heard that news, the first thing I thought of was the planner who planned that investor conference that he was on the way to, right? How do you deal with that?
And why didn't that planner arrange for security?
Well, good point. Now, I worked with mostly CEOs in my life, and the security that surrounds a CEO, it's they're all good. I mean, all the experiences I've had, and people have taken great care to keep track of not only the CEO but all management, and in a variety of situations. Sometimes the security, I mean, that with this specific horrific act, he was walking across the street to a hotel. Perhaps his security was going to meet him there. That something as heinous as this wasn't thought about. And I'm sure security, there's no doubt in my mind that they address the situation. But this is what I want to drive home to your audience, to the audience here: human resources, learning and development people, talent acquisition. You're meeting an event people, deal with your people. It it's their responsibility. I spent my life in this career, and yet I knew first and foremost my responsibility was to the people. Now, that being said, the value of that meeting or event, it's not just planning a meeting and event. Those of us in the business, we say planning deliberately, planning with consciousness. And I often give the analogy of, Ed, if I worked for you in and you would you turn to me and say, hey, Dianne, we need a new advertising campaign for the company. You take care of it. You're my EA, you're my admin, you take care of it. Or we need a new PR campaign, we need a new marketing plan. Of course you wouldn't. You would go to the respective departments because but yet advertising and PR, what do they use? They use events as one of the most successful ways to reach their audience. Is everyone as trained as they could be in those areas to maximize the investment that live event is demanding? The investment of time, the investment of finances, the investment of human resources, the investment of how am I going to deliver that message? And so you can tell how passionate I am about this. So, with this certificate, the foundational knowledge, and by the way, and there are modules on legal, on risk management. This is all, to me, this is tantamount for someone to learn. So that's just to answer that part of the question. But I think there's a big opportunity right now, which led me to human resources and learning and development. And that is, and I may be off a little bit with the percentages, but what my research showed and what the feedback showed after this year, and speaking with EAs and speaking with chief of staff for some companies, is that learning and development departments focus on communication, leadership, and strategy.
So let
Now,
me ask you,
yeah,
if I may, and please excuse, I don't mean to interrupt,
sure,
but um, you and I were at a meeting that I produced um, in, well, across from Wall Street
yes,
in Jersey, and we're not going to name names here, but the EA that you happened to meet at this meeting, which she was an EA in a top company, huge. worldwide.
Mhm.
Without getting into detail, did she and you had a intimate conversation, which I wasn't part of it, but I was dealing with the CEO
Right,
and
yes.
and running the meeting,
Yes, yes.
and
I remember I remember
so
the situation well. Yeah.
the conversation was good then, wasn't it, between you and
Well,
her?
she actually this young woman, yes, she was, and this is a perfect example. She was charged with organizing the event that you spearhead, that you hosted. She worked for the gentleman you're speaking about. And when I was waiting for her, we just started to chat, and I said, "Oh, you're responsible for the. Have you had any training in events?" And she basically intimated, and I'm paraphrasing, but no, she hadn't, but she would love it. And I said, "Oh, well, maybe I can help you with that," because it was my intention to support her. And we started talking. She visited the website. In fact, during our meeting, she was out there researching the certificate, because I said to her, choose a couple of the modules that you'd like to take, and I'd be happy to give those to you. And followed up with her, this and that. She was very excited about it, and then it just the communication just ended. So I still am waiting to have a happy ending to that story. It's kind of out there, but the point is, it was very well received. A couple of things have come up though with that, and that is learning from the EA perspective. What challenges are there for you uh, with learning and training in general? Now, you and I both know, and the audience knows, that senior management and upper management, you don't have a choice to be trained. You're given a day, you're given a time, and it doesn't matter what's on your calendar, you report for that training. What came up in conversations with my EAs over the past few months is, why, I said, why haven't you finished it yet? Or why did the time allotment go? Well, we don't have the time. Well, how do you not have the time? Have you communicated to your boss that you registered for this course, that he or she approved, but you're not taking advantage of it? So why don't you go to your boss and just say, can I allocate whatever times, Fridays 9 to 11 or whatever it is, to do that? And three of them did, and three of them came back and said, no problem. I said, what a surprise. So there's that reticence from the EA. So what I stress to the audience here is a couple of things. Getting back to the L&D focus, learning and development, my knowledge is about 80% of the departments include nothing on meeting and event training. And yet 85 to 90% plus EAs are given the responsibility to plan meetings and events, but there's no support for upskilling them in,
And
right,
100% of that universe does meetings and events
correct. So there's
frequently.
a, so right. So is that an opportunity? Is that a disconnect? I see it as a huge opportunity. I mean, I spoke with a chief of staff at a major network in this country, and she was very excited and supportive of the certificate for all the admins, and again, the junior planners, people who need it, period, to offer it. Senior management said, no, we have internal training. And when she and I went on the internal training through the parent company, there was nothing on meeting and event management, meeting and
Shock. A big surprise.
what, yeah, big surprise. But this is why, and I appreciate being on this show, because Ed, I'm an educator. At this stage in my life, and we've been working a long time. What is the biggest thing that we can give is our knowledge, our experience, our wisdom. We want people to learn. There's over 70% new staff in meetings and events, planning meetings and events in corporations since COVID. And I know what's happening because, as I said before, I alluded before, the traditional departments, the meetings and events department, who are professional, who are experienced, they're so taxed with what they have on their plate, they can't handle it all. But you wouldn't handle, like I said, you wouldn't give an advertising or a PR campaign to an EA because they're not trained. So why a meeting? Now let me say this: a holiday event, booking the conference room, booking the board meeting, planning no question. But something where there is a return on investment to be gained, something that's targeted to customers, something that's targeted to employees, something that's targeted to training, whatever the reason that you're looking as a senior executive, as a host of this event, a marketing person, what will reap you the benefits, the goals that you have in mind to accomplish. And that's where you need the training.
So what is like, let's take a module, anyone,
Okay.
just name it, and let's tell the audience what is involved within that specific module. Identify it and step one, step two, step three.
Right. So, and I will, yeah, I will definitely, I'll do a screen share here, to show you so that it makes it easier for everyone.
Sure. Good.
Give me a minute here, but while I'm getting this up, I will say this. So each of the modules includes the, tips and background and what people need to know in that specific area. That's number one. Number two is each of them has an accompanying workbook so that as you're taking this, you're filling in the blanks, or after you take the module, you're filling in the blanks with your own notes, right? With what you learned from this. There's a tip sheet, top 10 tip sheet with each of the modules, and there's a quiz. So when you take this, you not only have the actual virtual experience, where, by the way that these PowerPoints are presented, it is not just a PowerPoint. It's me, my little head is in each slide, and I'm teaching through the process. So you have that, you hear my stories, you hear examples, you get the knowledge of it, you have the accompanying workbook. I recommend textbooks as well that people can refer to, including my own book, which is called What Color is Your Event, which is a basic resource book on how to think creatively and how to use the event as a communication tool. And so there's a lot of material that's included to help the person who's taking this. Right. So I feel, I just this morning, as a matter of fact, received an email from a planner who took the certificate, and she said, you've helped me identify my goals for next year through some of the advice and tips that are within the program. So getting back to the modules, Ed, I'll tell you this, and I can go through them because it's on my website, the DianneDevitt.com, which I know you'll put up at the end. But I think this is important to stress. Each of these modules you can purchase individually at this point, or the entire certificate, but each of them come with module 1, which is an introduction and industry overview, because it was very important to me that if someone says, well, I'd like to learn more about sourcing and site selection, which again is an entire industry. Which hotel do you buy? Why do you buy it? And how do you buy it? Basically, does for the fit, the objectives and goals of the meeting and event. Each of these individual modules, I then require whoever takes it to take the module on introduction and industry overview, because it's important that people understand the industry at large. This is, again, a multi-billion-dollar industry. It involves destinations anywhere in the world. It's the revenue that destinations look forward to, that convention centers are built from, that airlines, that hotels, everyone depends on meeting and events for that.
And let's just throw in, because I'm here in downtown San Diego in Seaport Village, which is the heart of the tourist and convention business, which
Right.
is just down the street is the convention center.
Yes.
And directly across the street from a giant Hyatt with Twin Peaks, and
Right.
next door to that is Marriott Marquis, right on the marina, which is right behind it. And then next door to that, down by the mega yachts, uh, is the Hilton high rise. And across the street is Petco Park, which is the San Diego baseball team's headquarters.
Right.
And next to that is the Gaslamp Entertainment District
Yes.
with
And
all
just,
the
yes.
bars and restaurants.
Yep.
And it's all right here. And so I'm very familiar with all that. So an EA, I mean, they've got a brain in their head, otherwise they wouldn't get the EA job. But there's so much minutia and details that can make a break that, and an EA or anybody won't have that knowledge until something goes wrong, and then you realize what you need to know. But what you're doing is preemptive and planning and first class. I really
Well,
congratulate you on that.
well,
My screen share is available to you if you wish to upload
I will,
anything.
and I will, I just would like to just say, like, one thing with a note, because I have, one of the things that I reinforce, and one of the things that I really bring home with the people I'm training, is what I call the clipboard practice. And what is the clipboard practice? Again, I'll use the reference of you, and I'm working with you, Ed, and you'll say, Dianne, plan a meeting for me, or plan an event for me. And typically it will be, what you're really saying to me is, I want to have an event, plan the logistics. And logistics are just one part of the puzzle, aren't they? They're the one part of, yeah, get the hotel, figure out the menu, hire the AV person. All of that is implementation. That's sort of like, let's build a car, but you still need the design and all of the other elements that go into this car, right? Let's
Right.
let's design a great ad in a magazine. You still need the creative, the strategy, the colors, the branding, the objectives, the goals. So again, let's go back. So I'm being charged the logistics. So what I teach these learners and the students, the participants, is take this form, and it's downloadable on the website. I call it Norma. And I'll tell you the quick background. I call it Norma because Norma, my late girlfriend Norma, was one of the best meeting planners in the industry. And she, some 30 years ago, said to me, Dianne, always have a checklist so that you understand what your client, your boss, whatever their super objectives are. So Norma started this concept in my mind, and I built it over the years. And that's why I'm offering it like as a free downloadable form when you go on the website. It's a pop-up, and there's one for meetings and there's one for events. Why? Because they both have distinct needs. And so what is the clipboard process? Taking this checklist, and you say, Dianne, plan a meeting. And I say, great, Ed. When can I have 15 minutes of your time? And that's something that most EAs or AAs, I'm not understanding, people who aren't that experienced don't do. And I want to go in and drill you down on why you want to have, why is this meeting happening? And then I want to know, what do you personally want to accomplish from it? And then I want to know, what are the measurable goals that need to come from this experience? Meaning, last year we had this meeting and 50 people came. It's a customer meeting. This year, I'd like 100 people to come. So I'd like to increase, right? Increase the attendance by 100%, double it, all right? That's a measurable goal that goes into the strategy of how I'm going to market this event. That can be measured when it's over. How much in that, and anything measurable with budgeting, anything measurable with impressions on loyalty for customers. I'm going to give you a quick story. One of my colleagues worked for a beauty company, a major beauty company, and they had a new customer event. And she understood that the goal was, okay, new customers are coming, but also existing customers are coming. And obviously, one of the goals was to convert prospective clients into customers, right? And through a series of strategic planning, they were able to measure 6 months later to get the data that they did in fact convert 25% of prospective attendees into customers. That's huge, because then that defends the investment that was made in that particular event. And I just throw one more thing in with this is, so I have my clipboard, which is sitting down and going through a series of topics that make both the host and the stakeholder think, and then also make the planner, who's tasked with the responsibility, understand what she's responsible for, he's responsible for. So that's number one. Number two is, very often what I've done over the years, working especially with CEOs, senior management, is I'll sit in a room with their team. We'll discuss the meetings, objective goals, all these things I'm talking to you about, and then I'll have a one-on-one. I want to really know what's in your mind. I want to really know what you're thinking about. And I'll give a quick example of that. I worked with a major university at one time, and I was planning a very significant event. And when I closed the door and I spoke one-on-one with the head of the department, I said, what is it that would motivate you? What is your personal goal with this? And he said, Dianne, I would love to raise money for fellowship funds. Okay. Now from that sparked something in me. And then we went back to the drawing board to design things. And we ended up with a 3-day meeting that allowed sponsorship support. And we were able to raise a significant amount of money to the fellowship funds. And I felt great about that. That's what meetings and events can do when they're planned and produced with professionals who understand their value.
Now, give us an example if you didn't have the training that you brought to that, and you were an EA, and
Perfect example that I just gave you. When I first went to this university to plan this major event, I sat with the head of the department and his number two, and I listened for 2 hours of what the whole reason is. And okay, fine. And they said at the end, we thought we would have a symposium and a reception to celebrate this global event. Okay. And I sat back and I said, then why did you bring me up? And I don't know. And then I had my 2 hours and I understood what their capability was. And so their vision of a symposium, which is basically an all-day meeting, right? Panel talk, panel discussions, this and that, and a reception, then turned into this 3-day event, 3-day program with 7 events: breakfast with the president, a student white paper event, a customer event, panel. I mean, it was comprehensive. They were so excited by that then triggered the thought, well, wait a minute, we don't need to limit this to just the 3 days. No, you don't. Let's keep it going for the year. And so this turned out to be a monthly, not only the 3-day actual conference, but a monthly. So their little symposium and reception turned into an amazing experience for everybody.
And raising the
And
funds
raised
for the
and raised
charity.
$1 million for fellowship money.
And it just started out to be a one-day thing.
And it started out to be a 1-day thing. So that is the power of the meeting and event.
Now, take me through, and me meaning the audience behind me,
Mhm.
uh, not in great detail because we don't have time now, but
Right.
um, you were listening to what they were wanting to do and what their thought was, but you were applying, while you were listening, you were applying your own insights. And while they were talking, you saw capability of expanding this thing into that. And then they kept talking, and you say, well, that's a whole other thing that's expanded that way. And it turned
Right.
out to be a 3-day thing. And then
Yes.
that turned out to be a monthly thing. And that turned out to be the annual take.
Yes. Yes. And this, Ed, and again, I'll just give you a few examples. And this goes back to the risk topic. Over the years, as a professor, I remember I'd hear this from people in the industry. Well, yes, I was tasked to plan a meeting of 50 people or 100 people, and I'd say, okay, who are you planning it with? Oh no, my boss will only pay for me to go. Well, okay, I've had 3 people die in front of me at meetings and events.
Oh
One
my
on the
God.
dance floor, one getting on a bus, okay, and one sitting in a lobby. Now, if I wasn't able to leave that desk, that hospitality desk or registration desk or wherever I am, if I did not have backup, who would have been there to service all the rest of the people at the industry, at the event? So there's not an event that's too small or too big. Never, and this would be my advice to this audience, never presume that one person can be responsible, regardless of which hotel you're at, because hotels have amazing staff, but they're focused on their jobs. Venues and event spaces are focused on their jobs. They can support you, but they're not there to do your job, to do the job of the planner. So that's number one. So I do talk about that in these modules, the importance of staff. And one of our, we have there's wonderful companies that do staff assignments from professional planners that are available, and sustainability, which is huge, as you know. Certain companies, and they're very aware. Well, how do you integrate that into your meeting or event? You need the knowledge for it. Registration. Registration is not just about signing up anymore, it's a process. More importantly, what registration starts is data collection and data awareness. And that is what the top conversation is of professional planners now, is the responsibility to provide data from that demographic that attends that meeting or event for future marketing purposes. That's a whole nother program, isn't it? I'm looking at your face.
Yeah. No,
people don't
it
people
just,
don't
it's overwhelming.
Well, it is overwhelming, and people don't realize that, again, from a planning point of view, I'm given a blank palette. And based on the criteria, based on the audience, based on the attendees, the timing, all these different factors, I'm going to advise you what the best tool is to get the message across. And that tool might be transportation, by the way. Maybe the company is cutting back on budgets. Maybe I don't pick you up in these deluxe motor coaches. Maybe I pick everyone up in school buses to get the message of we're not fitting into the right budget right now. Or maybe I work with food and beverage, which, by the way, was the impetus for the book I wrote, What Color is Your Event? I'll make a very long story short. I was tasked with a management meeting, CEO, all the C suite, the top 100 of a global engineering company, 99% men. I said, how am I going to communicate with them? The CEO's trigger, his hidden message was, Dianne, I'm the new CEO. I need to bring these four silos together. But my ultimate vision is that they learn to work with one another, that they're not so independent in their operation. This was major. So I thought about it and I thought about it and I said, you know what? They're engineers, mostly left brain people, build machineries and all catalysts. I'm going to work with color. And so over the 3-day meeting, every food function, breakfast, lunch, dinner, breaks. So it's breakfast, lunch, dinner with 2 breaks, were each color coordinated. Breakfast was red. Now it wasn't monotonous, but the linens were red. The centerpieces were organics like pomegranates and apples, and then we had, oatmeal with cranberries in it, or strawberry yogurt, or little touches like that. And by the way, in the corner for red was a mariachi dancer. No music, just dancing. And then one of the breaks, for example, were green. One of the breaks was green. And again, green linen, green organics on the table, fun, I forget what kind of fun food we had. That was green vegetables, of course, and that. But I had a putting green set up outside of the big ballroom in the pre-function area, a big putting green with 2 golf pros. So when the men came out there, of course, most of them are golfers, they're all excited. So after a while, it became very Pavlovian, and they would anticipate, oh, what's lunch going to be? What's the next break going to be? And then it culminated in a big award ceremony where I had a wonderful painter, Jean-Francois. He paints, splatters the paint on the wall, turns it upside down, and I think it was the Statue of Liberty. It was amazing. But the point of the matter is that here's what came out of this meeting. The first day, people meet like you can expect. Everyone meets, they go to general session, they have their breaks, and they start to see something unusual with the color concept, the color, use of color, and how I did it the first day. The second day, now they're excited. They come to breakfast, and the CEO at the break, the CEO pulled me aside and he said, Dianne, what do you notice here? And I said, it's loud. He said, yes, it's loud. He said, you don't know all the people here, but what's happening is the 4 divisions, everyone's starting to talk to one another. I want you to extend the break. So we extended, typically you get a 15-minute break for a cup of coffee. That became maybe a 20-minute, 25-minute, whatever it was. The afternoon, we extended the break again.
People could talk more. They
People
wanted
were
to.
talking to one another. The third day, we switched the agenda around to literally give about a 45-minute interlude between the meetings instead of just 15 minutes, because there was so much conversation going on. And so what happened to that? About 3 or 4 months after the meeting, new products were discussed, and all this, because of the coming together, because of the integration of the 4 silos, new opportunities for the company came around that brought them major success.
I want to
And
congratulate you on sharing this information with me and the audience because before this show started, I had no idea that you were going to do this, but you are um, really smart to do this and explaining, oh, it's just not a, a directory to do that and a module to listen to that, and but now you're giving you're painting a picture and the idea of the different color schemes, and that was for left brain people really unusual, because they live in a white world or a beige world or a gray world most of the time, right? And so now they're forced into, and they want to.
And they wanted to, yes. And this is what I'm bringing home, Ed, is that the producer and the planner will use these audio, will use AV and production, all the special effects, will use design and decor, will use music, entertainment, the choice of speakers. So understanding, this is like I'm saying, is this is a business. And just as I make the analogy of, I say, when you're in an airport and you're running for a plane, the bookstores we all pass and we wish that we read all the books in them, but we never do.
Right.
But when you're running past and a book cover might just catch your eye, that's what I want your events to look like. So that when people walk in, that visual dynamic that stays with them is the message of your event, that ties into your theme, that goes on and on and on. So you see it goes on and on. So getting back to the whole, objective of this, and I really appreciate this time to reach the audience, is I welcome discussing this further. I welcome going into depth with the learning and development, with L&D departments, with human resource departments, with whoever's responsible for internal training, to require this. Not only require the training for the people who are tasked with planning the meetings and events, but that the time is given, that you give them the time to invest, because ultimately the time that they're spending and the investment of their time is a fraction of the return that you're going to get back when they make smart decisions. And that's really what my crusade is about. Whether it's insurance, it's legal, it's technology, it's risk management, it's scheduling. There's so many components to this. And it's not only the logistics part, but there's strategy involved, there's marketing involved, and there's real focus on what can be the best return on investment for that specific meeting or event.
Do you want to use my screen share?
No, I think I'm okay for today, Ed. I think you can add my website link at the end for everyone. And if anyone has any questions on this, we'll add my email as well. And I'm happy to just, to show them that. I mean, would everyone like to see? Would you like to
Yes.
go on?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I would
Yeah.
like to. All right. So you just tell me, I can do a screen share here.
Yes. Yes. Just
Okay.
upload whatever you want to,
Okay.
and let people see that you can do that because I cannot.
All right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here is the screenshot.
Here you go. So does everyone see this here? First, I thought I would show you.
Oh, buy the
This is,
entire 19
so this
module
is
certificate. Wow.
yes. So this is the entire program that is on the website, which I'll go back. So you see, you have an industry, an introduction overview, an entire module on business theory and application.
Meaning meetings and events.
Meaning this is an industry, and I don't want anyone to spend $1,000, let alone $100,000, without understanding why and without understanding the purpose. I would even go this far. The meetings in the conference rooms need this attention too, so that people do not feel that their time has been wasted. There's an entire segment of the industry on sourcing and site selection. How do you choose a hotel? What do I mean by that? Based on the objective of the meeting, if it's training, if it's senior management, if it's customers. I call this the theater of events. And where your event is being held is like your stage. And choosing the right theater and choosing the right stage helps to attain the goals that have been identified. Right?
So
So,
the concept here, if I can jump in
mhm,
here, um, I've been fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with and present at the London headquarters of the Global Trade Bank, HSBC.
mhm,
And they've hosted my live event 3 times, and number 4 is coming up in 2025. And they have enabled me to step up. And because of that, because of the fact that HSBC is my host, but also the facilitator, but it's my event for my industry. Uh, they by way of them doing that, not just once but 3 times now, and a fourth time coming up, they think it's important, and they happen to
I'm
like
sure it is.
what I'm doing. So they say, "Well, let's plan the next one." But tweak it a little bit here and tweak it a little bit there, and I welcome that feedback. And it's not feedback; it's feed forward.
Correct.
So I love what you're doing, and I want to be helpful to you.
Well, thank you, Ed. And just briefly, like I show everybody here, so, and they can certainly visit it on their own, how comprehensive this is. Um, and then what's there. And I'm going to see if I can go back on this. I don't know if Zoom will. Do you see me moving the screen by any
Oh,
chance?
there you are. Uh,
Okay, so when you first go on the website here, which is my name, I've designed this. Oh, there's Norma. So there's your
Hey,
pop.
Norma.
There you go. Meetings and events checklist. Please, everyone, download that. What I did is I designed this with corporate in mind. And so this here, this clip, download the certificate summary, is a 3-page. I don't know if it's going to work. Let me know if you can see. Can you see the change in screen?
Yes.
So this is a 3-page summary that was designed um, with the EA in mind, with the person in mind who wants to take this, because you need something to send to senior management for approval. So let me just bring this up 1 point up so that this is important. Events Industry Council is the governing body of the entire meeting and events industry. They control all the accreditations and there are 33 associations under their umbrella. So I am a preferred provider through the EIC, which means that anyone who takes a module or the certificate, thank you, actually is accruing CEU units towards an accreditation in the industry. Some of those accreditations are CMP, like Certified Meeting Professional, or Certified Meeting Manager. But again, I did this as a downloadable document so that I could send this to you and you would have something for HR to cut a check against, or to make a payment against. So this is for your audience to know as well. Um, so I did that, and I appreciate any feedback on what people might need. And then when you scroll down here, you'll see each of these modules has a description and learner outcomes, so that it's comprehensive. I want everyone to understand what's included, what they will attain by it, and what they will learn through it. So that is the overview of the program.
So your website is
Dianne
Diane.
Devitt.com, and
All
then
right,
just
and
slash
that's two N's in Diane,
yes,
and Devitt,
yes.
Diane Devitt, no space, no nothing, DianneDevitt.com.
Right. And the one thing I want to say to this audience, and again, we can follow up with this, is that um, with this program, two things. One, for individuals, there's a 15% discount code that is that is on the summary page there, that will, for individuals. But for corporations, we designed, and this is critical to know, we designed a corporate volume pricing structure. And that includes a myriad of benefits based on how you purchase. So ultimately, so for example, I'd like to see an HR department or L&D department say, hey, Diane, I'd like to purchase 10 full certificates and 40 modules, and then put this out to the entire company, and we will give you special codes, this and that. That, needless to say, design a very attractive price point for you. But that also comes with certain benefits. For example, I'll organize either A, physically coming into the office, B, doing a Zoom call on a monthly basis. C, everyone will get a free copy of my book, the What Color of Your. So what I'm saying is each one will be customized based on the volume, but there are special pricing that's available. So if anyone's interested, just email me and
There
we'll.
you have it. And I'm totally honored to have you on this program, and I welcome you back to do a
Thank you.
second edition. And I look forward to doing whatever I can to assist you in your
Well, thank
pursuit.
you. And thank you, Ed, and I really appreciate it. And again, and I would say this to your audience, to all the human resource professionals, to the learning and development people, to everyone responsible for training and upskilling. Don't underestimate the fear that comes with this. When I did a webinar for EAs, there were about 75 executive assistants online, very formidable companies. And I asked them who feels fear when they plan something, and the chat nearly exploded. And they said, my boss doesn't know, I'm like a duck swimming underwater. I keep my fingers crossed. I don't sleep at night. There's a real anxiety that goes with being responsible for planning events. Don't take it lightly. And I'm here to help. I want to support, and I want to educate, and I want to see your events and meetings be the most successful they can be.
Bravo. Whew. A tour de force. Please come back. Diane
Thank you.
Devitt.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Ed in San Diego, and Diane is in Chicago. And I'm so glad to meet you finally in person this past spring. So it
Thank you.
was just wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.
I had. Thank you.
Thank you.